Hey everybody, and welcome back to another book review. This book I read in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month. A little controversial though, because I think a lot of times here in America, when we think of Hispanic Heritage Month, we focus on like Central and South American Latinx folks. But this author is from Spain. And the reason I picked it is because the book was originally written in Spanish and translated. And so that book is Wormwood by Layla Martinez. And I just wanted to read something a little different. And so I know it's a little controversial for Hispanic Heritage Month, but the person is from Spain. So there you have it. Wormwood is a very confusing book. And at first I was like, maybe it's because of the translation, but I really don't think it is. I think it's just uniquely written. So the story is about these two ladies, a grandmother and her granddaughter, and they are from this family that is really overall just kind of been tortured by the same wealthy family for generations. And it started with the grandmother's mother, so the great grandmother, and how she met this man who worked for this wealthy family, and it just didn't turn out very well. Or no, I'm sorry, the grandmother's grandmother. It's very confusing. Like I said, it's very confusing. But anyway, the first woman in their line, she met this guy and he worked for the family, and it just didn't turn into a really great relationship. She got pregnant out of wedlock kind of thing. And so they wind up together. But their relationship is just very frustrating, and he just, constantly talking about how he wants to leave and he hates the house. And so eventually she buries him in the wall, like literally brick and mortars him in there during the I think it would be around World War II, if I mathed correctly, because they kept just saying the war, so I couldn't tell if it was World War I or World War II. But I'm going to go with World War II because World War II makes the most sense for the granddaughter existing and her age. It just makes a little bit more sense. So the grandmother's grown up with all of these shadows and these noises in this house, and the house is kind of alive and it breathes, and they talk about, oh, I walked into this room and I could see the shoes from underneath the bed, and then they disappeared. Or the shadows reached out and grabbed my hair, or they threw a plate at us, So basically you're just like, what is happening in this house? Like, this is the house possessed? And you come to find out that the house is not really possessed, but it's actually full of the spirits of the dead, because they keep killing people. And so anyway, so the great grandmother is like, don't, fall for this family. They're terrible. And then the grandmother does fall for this family. She goes to work for them for a little while, and it just doesn't work out. And so she's really, really mad about it. But she lets it go. Then her daughter starts pining after the son of this family. And they have a relationship, but it just isn't working out because, he's off at university and all this stuff. And so to get back at him, her daughter decides that she is going to, start a relationship with somebody else in the village, and winds up getting pregnant at a very young age, like 15, 16, 17, and gives birth to the granddaughter. But then he comes back and he has this wife, and he's just kind of toting it around. And so the daughter is super frustrated, and eventually causes, they set a bunch of curses to cause issues for this family. So he breaks his wrist on a hunting expedition. Somebody's hair falls out, things like that. And everybody in the village just kind of thinks that this family is weird. They're just like, yeah, they're weird. They kind of have some witchy vibes, et cetera, et cetera. And then when we get to the granddaughter, the grandmother's like, don't mess around with this family. They're, whatever. Just, keep your head down. And the house is just not going to let you leave, though. Like, you're going to die in this house, basically. And so the granddaughter's like, oh, I want to go to university, and that doesn't work out. And she wants more for herself, but it's just not working out because, like, she talks about her mother talking about how the house makes your teeth fall out, or the house, like, possesses you and all this stuff. And so she winds up going to work for the very wealthy family, and the son disappears. And so everybody's blaming her and is like, oh, she kidnapped him, or she left the door open so he wandered out and got kidnapped, blah, blah, blah. And what actually happened is that the grandmother, it's so confusing how it happens, because I'm like, what was the real motivation? Because it's not truthfully clear what the motivation is, but basically they made it so that this family, this wealthy family, would die out with this generation by taking their very young son, who's like 7, 8, 9, just very bratty, wealthy kid. And so they take the son and they put him in the wall with the others. And so it's a weird story, for one, very creepy, about an alive house that is alive because of all the dead that are in the house, or the people that they have cursed and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's also just weird because it was just so confusing. The motivation behind each character's killing, more or less, just doesn't make sense, because it goes back 4 generations, and simply because one person got burned by this family, the rest of the family is just holding this grudge, and so they take it out on this little kid. It doesn't rationally make sense, but it's an interesting story. And I know that it's steeped in a little bit of Spanish myth. There's some of that in there. But yeah, I was very confused the whole time. And then, of course, I thought about, like, maybe because it's been translated, we're losing some of the meaning or something. But I also feel like maybe not, because the author is very young, still alive. So I know that they've talked to this author as they're translating, so I'm thinking that the translation is as close as humanly accurate. It's just very confusing, and I was very, very lost and confused the whole time. So because of that, I give it a 3. I give it a 3 because conceptually, it's not a bad story. I like the idea of, a family seeking revenge on this family that has cause them some kind of pain and some kind of heartache. But I just felt like it's not a good pain and heartache. Like, okay, he doesn't really want you as, having a relationship, so now you want to kill his kid. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it was just a lot. But it was also a very quick read. It's a very short book. And I think they technically said it's a novel, but, like, it feels more like a novella. It's only 10 chapters long, like less than 200 pages. So, but, very good story, very interesting story. But yeah, just because I was so confused a good chunk of it about, like, what's the motivation, what's the purpose, why did this really start? Because I mean, the grandmother kind of has a little motive, because her father had worked for the family, and the family, like, the wealthy family, like, made it like, oh, we've lost our son and he was so good to us. And she's like, it's my dad, and you're making this funeral all about you. That makes sense from the grandmother's perspective. But then again, why would you wait 2 generations before you did something about it. That part just didn't make sense. And then also get your granddaughter involved. Like, what does she have to do with it? Yeah. So all of that, because of all of that, 3 out of 5. So yeah, there you have it. As always, thank you so much for watching these book reviews. Like, comment, share, subscribe if you so choose. Love having a lot of you guys pop in. I know some of the members of my book club have recently joined, so welcome. Glad to have you on this journey that you guys didn't know I was doing. But super glad to have you, and others around the world. Thank you all for joining in and following me on this book journey. So as always, if you have any book suggestions, feel free to drop those in the comments and I will add them to the list. But without further ado, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next book review. Bye!